What's going on, guys? This is Ed Reviews, back, unfortunately, with junior consultant Mike Adams.
What is that supposed to be, unfortunately? You don't like my company?
Not you. Back, unfortunately, with Mr. Junior Consultant Mike Adams to talk about The Awesome Adventures of Captain Spirit, a Life is Strange story. I think. Did they say a Life is Strange story at some...
I think we just riffed the joke off of a Star Wars story.
Yeah. For those who don't remember, or have blocked it from their mind, junior consultant Mike Adams and I, when Life is Strange Before the Storm came out, we're here to podcast with you, along with you folks, our thoughts about Before the Storm. And when the good folks at Square Enix announced this pile of shit at the Xbox event, and that it would be free, we decided,
begrudgingly,
we were gonna do this. So here we are. In short, if you don't want to listen to the podcast, neither of us liked it.
Nope.
But we're going to go into detail. And I guess first, spoilers for The Awesome Adventures of Captain Spirit throughout. Although I don't think you should play it, so I don't think it matters if you get it spoiled. And also, as always, when we bring him on for a podcast, probably swearing throughout.
Thank you.
And let's get going. And I guess we can get going with what I'm noticing is a theme with Square Enix and these games coming out, and that's completely stumbling into the launches. And again, we're both on PlayStation, so we have to get everything to the PlayStation Store. And number one, I am 85 to 90% positive they said it was coming out on June 26th. But it dropped a day early on June 25th. The Monday. I thought it was supposed to come out Tuesday this week, but it came out Monday.
Damn.
And that's twice now, because if you remember, one of the episodes of Before the Storm
came out early
came out 2 days early.
And why is it whenever we do a Life is Strange thing, it's so difficult to find it on the PlayStation Store?
Yeah, that's the other thing, too.
If you look up the Captain Spirit on PlayStation, through its horrible search engine in the PlayStation Store.
Yeah, the search engine, admittedly, on the PlayStation Store is not that good to begin with.
Single letter searching, that's fun.
Yeah.
Anyways, it's you don't get anything for Captain Spirit. There's just nothing pops up. If you put in Life is Strange, however, you have to scroll all the way down to the bottom and you say Life is Strange Season 2, demo The Awesome Adventures of Captain Spirit.
Now, because I couldn't find it initially, checked on the Life is Strange Twitter account, and that was only on PlayStation for some reason, that it was marked as Life is Strange 2's demo.
And the thumbnail was Life is Strange 2 Episode 1.
Again!
Like, what? Why?
I don't know why this is a recurring theme with the PlayStation, but, again, this is twice now that they've just kind of stumbled into, here's our game.
And it's a demo. It's not Life is
really
Strange 2. It's a... our friend described it as a playable teaser, which is accurate.
Yeah, it's a playable teaser, or I jokingly was saying it's Life is Strange 1.7. Mm-hmm. Just because it's...
We've got some Kingdom Hearts naming themes going on here.
1.5,
2.5, 2.8, final chapter prologue.
That's kind of what I was going for. I mean, it's Square Enix, so...
Yeah, they seem to like those stupid name conventions.
Decimals. But... where do you want to start? Because it really wasn't much of a thing.
I guess you asked me what my expectations were.
Going in just before we both started, we played this 2 days ago. He had to work. I had to work. Our schedules, now that he's at a different job, have not synced up the way it used to. So we're really struggling to find time to torture ourselves with this, which is probably a good thing for our mental health. But so we played it 2 days ago, and we've had about 2 days to marinate, think about it. And first off, to say things throughout our thoughts, we are both going to be probably drawing comparisons to Sony exclusive choice-based game Detroit Become Human
by French developers, Quantic Dreams. French developers, which is important to note for this.
Because as we'll get into, there are some similarities in story ideas it's trying to tackle. Not much, but there's some. And just after I finished Detroit Become Human, I said to Mike, we were texting about it because he was playing it around the same time I was. I think he finished like a day or two before I finished it.
Yeah.
Like actually a day or two. I kept good pace with you.
Yeah.
I was saying that like that game was the final nail in the coffin for I don't like Life is Strange anymore. Even the first game, it's getting harder and harder to defend it as I play good choice-based games, and Detroit Become Human is a phenomenal choice-based game.
I'm even showing some, not distaste, but I'm seeing more of the cracks in Telltale games, too.
Yeah, I never ended up playing the second season of the Telltale's Batman, but I played the first season, and even that, like, is still kind of...
Which, in our final thoughts, I'll draw, like, why Detroit is the quintessential and why... I'll get it.
We'll get there. So let's start with what little of a plot there is in this little snippet of what I'm assuming you're gonna get in LIS2.
Which credit is where credit is due. I wasn't looking for much here for a story. It's a playable teaser, so it's more. Here's what you're gonna do.
We also didn't know that until our friend Kevin. Shout out to Kevin, though he doesn't watch or listen to us at all. He had played it for the night it dropped, and he had texted us, okay, here's what this is, which I'm grateful for because my expectations were able to be lowered, but maybe, I don't know, do you think that wrecked it for you, or do you think that knowing going in that this ended up not being its own story and it was just a playable teaser?
I think it certainly softened the blow. If this was like the first episode of Life is Strange 2, I would have been like, okay, that's horrible. But knowing that it's just a demo/teaser, I'm not expecting a whole lot of this, which is why I'm not like furious or anything like that. I'm just
Yeah. By the way, I apologize. I'm starting to get a bit of a cold, so I might be coughing and sound a little nasally.
He's gonna get me sick.
I'm dying. It's okay though. So to start with, before we even get into the plot, we should it's probably good to talk about how, because again, we didn't know until Kevin told us that this was a playable teaser, how Don't Nod tried to market this. Because again, from what we could gather from that initial E3 trailer and a little bit of press I read leading up to the launch of this, they were really marketing it as its own story that's going to give you just hints to what Life is Strange 2 will be about.
Yeah, I thought it was just going to be like, for example, a length of an actual episode of one of the Life is Strange games, but its own, like, thing.
Yeah, that's kind of what I thought, too.
But it wasn't, which I guess isn't inherently a bad thing if he's going to return in the second one.
Yeah.
But maybe the second season is going to be about him, but this is a teaser into that. I don't know.
Yeah, so in some respects it's piqued our curiosity for something we don't like.
Which is a first for the series, I'll give it that.
Yeah. But, so yeah, that's just a little bit about the marketing. So I guess let's just dive in.
First off, let's talk about the new aesthetic they're going with. Because the first one, it was photography. The second one,
second one was
drawing, I guess.
Drawing and just anarchy.
Yeah, and then this
anarchy was kind of the aesthetic in Before the Storm.
Yeah, I guess she knew how to draw, too, which whatever.
Never really alluded to in the first Life is Strange.
This one is... It opens with, like, the Unreal Engine, but it's, like, sketchy and stuff like that. I guess he likes... It's kid drawings. Comic. It's a kid who likes superheroes, so he's going to try to draw comic-style stuff, but he's still a kid and he sucks at drawing.
Yes.
So, it's kind of like scribbly. It's a cute aesthetic. I'll give it that.
Yeah, it was kind of a cute aesthetic.
I don't mind it. It's not that bad.
But going off of aesthetic, or we should dive in before we get into the points on the aesthetic, like the TV and all that, or should we just do it here?
It's the first thing we
Yeah, so... Now, I recognize in the first Life is Strange, in pictures, instead of it being, say, a picture, like an actual picture, it was this oil painting-esque aesthetic. Would you say oil painting?
It's like 2D crappy drawings. And they did that, if you remember the first Life is Strange, like when they're in like the the party or whatever with the VIP club. You saw in the pool, they were all like 2D.
Yeah.
And crappy. I'm just like, it's cheap. It's not the aesthetic, it's cheap.
Yeah.
Like, Telltale's going for comic book, Detroit's going for realism, photorealistic. I don't get what the aesthetic... What's the point of the graphics here?
Take, for example, and we're jumping a little bit ahead in what little of a plot this had, the dad is watching a basketball game as you're walking around the house.
Which I thought was a hockey game at first, but...
To show you how bad it was, he thought it was...
I was very wrong.
But it has the moving television, but similar to the style of, like, as I say, like, oil painting-esque movement.
Like an old cartoon.
Or like an old cartoon, like blobs moving around on a screen. And I said to Mike, like, this was my first comparison to Detroit Become Human. Mm-hmm. In that game, if you were watching the TV, the on-air personalities, if you will, that were on like the newscast and stuff, was done in engine with the same mocapping as, you know, the actual actors. And I'm like, okay. And in that, I'm like, okay, good world building. Like, you're keeping everything consistent. So in my mind, try, for the love of God, just try to I know that your animation never syncs with the audio, but just make people the same way that you did in the game engine. I don't know if I'm making sense here, but that's...
It's like, maybe I can maybe excuse the aesthetic in the first game, because they might not have had money, right?
Yeah.
But they've made a lot of sales, and I get changing the quality of it might have thrown us off a little bit, but it's still... It's not charming. It's just cheap.
Yeah.
It looks just cheap. The lip syncing doesn't match up, and which is French, whatever. I can excuse that, I suppose.
But it was all American actors in Detroit, so it doesn't...
It doesn't... It just feels not great, to use very not good words.
Future communication major.
I need a thesaurus is what I need. But, yeah, I guess we can get into the plot now.
So, you wake up. No, you're not even waking up. You open to Chris, as his name is.
To a very sweeping winter shot.
Oh, sweeping winter shot, and Chris playing with some sort of action figure that looks like deformed Lego minifigures.
Kid being a kid.
Kid being a kid, but like... we were already just like...
I just started like looking at it. Look at the animation. The voice acting was not great. Which usually child acting is not perfect most of the time, especially for video games. I've played Heavy Rain and the child acting was not good, but it's just a kid being a kid. He's drawing. You can choose whether or not what your superhero costume will be.
You get to like,
which is an impactful choice
because actually the gameplay modifies ever so slightly.
Credit where credit is due. It's the first time that's happened, so I'm gonna.
Because it's like you get to choose if he wears a mask or a helmet.
Or light armor or heavy armor, and you can choose the color if you want.
And like, so with that, your objective of build the costume is like what you have to do slightly changes.
Yeah, and you don't have to do... right off the bat, the game's a vertical slice of... We were talking about it. A vertical slice is when a small section of gameplay where all, if not all, of the gameplay elements are present. So they throw you into this...
In this case, it's all, because literally all of the objectives are in that one area.
We'll go into detail, but it's just a big sandbox, I guess, and you can choose not to do any of the objectives. Just wait for the dad to fall asleep and then just go for it. Yeah, because I didn't do all the objectives. I didn't either. So you don't have to do it, but it's just you can if you want to, which I guess is all right. I mean, you know.
Yeah, it makes the experience longer, I think.
But we keep getting off the topic of...
Because what is it? We banged it out in like an hour and a half.
Yeah.
And then, like, I know people who took 3 hours to play it.
I wanted it done as fast as possible.
Me too. So just, there's not really... the thing about it, the objectives are like, go play in the snow. Make your costume.
wait for your dad to fall asleep.
Make him mac and cheese.
And the whole thing is like you're supposed to get a Christmas tree.
Yes,
but he wants to watch
Christmas
the basketball game first.
And he's a drinker.
Yeah, he's drinking a beer at 8 in the morning. It's kind of fun.
So I guess with that we can kind of talk about something I brought up as we were playing it, which was, again, unfortunately, more comparisons to Detroit Become Human. Because it's alluded to and almost directly stated that the father is, in some respects, abusive.
Yeah.
To the 9-year-old Chris that you're playing as.
With a bruise on his arm.
Well, he has a bruise on his arm that it's strongly alluded to that that he did that.
Every time you look at alcohol, it's like, this makes him angry. And it's like, okay.
Yeah. So I had compared it, and again, the mundanity of the tasks that you're doing around the house is a lot like the opening scene for Kara's narrative in Detroit Become Human, where she's brought back to Todd's house, who is an alcoholic, drug addict, abusive father who likes sports.
So, two very similar situations.
Very similar situations.
One has a point and one doesn't.
Yeah.
Can you guess which ones?
What I said to Mike was that it's funny how if you look at that Kara mission just kind of like as its owner without context for the situation,
it's boring as shit.
It seems really boring. But in the realm of the story, that exists to make the player incredibly uncomfortable in that household. Mm-hmm. Which makes, as you, again, has spoiler for Detroit Become Human, sort of, which makes the decision to betray Kara's programming and save Alice, the little girl, that much easier for you to come to that conclusion. So, while it was mundane, you were genuinely uncomfortable through that whole thing. Would you agree?
Yeah. Because, like, every time you stepped in front of the TV, Todd would yell at you. And if you step in front of the TV while your dad's watching the game, nothing. Nothing happens. You can choose to do the laundry, you can find Todd's drugs in Detroit, and he gets mad at you for it. Like, there's certain things that, throughout that, you can also talk to Alice and, like, make her like you or not like you. Everything you do has an actual outcome to it, and everything you do has purpose. The monotonous of it is just like, okay, androids are living in slavery.
Yes.
It's driving home that point. It's showing, not telling. This game's trying to do both.
Yeah, and
it's trying to be like, oh, you have the bruise in your arm. So the father might be abusive, but then you look at the alcohol bottle, it's like, Dad gets angry when he drinks that. Like, you're telling me that now.
Yeah.
You're trying to have your cake and eat it too.
So, and another just kind of semi-point with that, before we kind of, I'll bring up something he said afterwards. One micro point, too, was, ironically, Chris can do the dishes while you're doing this, and he does the laundry. And in Detroit, Kara has to do both of those things. Mm-hmm. But, like, just as a nice little bit of, hey, this is still a video game. You're supposed to interact. It has you just, like, again, it's just flicking the touchpad or using the gyro motion to, like...
But even still, it's getting used to the gameplay mechanics.
Like, it's getting used to the gameplay mechanics, and it's also just like, hey, we don't want you to be bored as shit while playing this. And in Life is Strange, it's just, do laundry. Watch a cutscene of doing laundry.
And the gameplay gimmick with this is that Chris has his imagination, quote unquote. So you have, like, the left trigger, instead of it being time travel, it's power actions, I'm going to call it.
Sure.
So, like, certain things that have an icon above it, you can press the left trigger and a different option will show up. So, like, instead of throwing away cans, you can demolish cans, which you use your kid powers to, which is cutesy in some parts. But, like, sometimes if you're doing the dishes, if you power wash the dishes, you break it and your dad becomes mad. No consequence to it, but your dad becomes mad. To activate some quote-unquote plot points, you need to do power actions. It's an interesting mechanic. There's potential there, I guess.
Sure.
But I can't really... it's alright. Sure, I don't really have an opinion on it, I guess.
Yeah,
it's kind of dumb, but it's kind of...
To end that little comparison to the car sequence, what is it that you said about it not wanting to go deep enough?
Oh, that's just what the...
Or is that just more for your final thoughts?
It's more for my final thoughts.
Okay, so that's what we in the business call a teaser. So, I mean, I guess the rest of it we can just kind of talk about, like, some of the things that happen as you're doing these mundane tasks.
You fight the water. The one thing that was really interesting was the water eater thing.
Kind of.
Because we got teased with this whole thing that, like, oh, you get to see what's happening in his imagination. Yeah. You can see what's happening in real life. Which I thought was kind of interesting. Because then you can see...
little, yeah.
I didn't see the part where, like, you can get into the car and then fight the person or whatever. That was one of the objectives. And I would assume you would, like, get to see what's happening in his imagination. And I like
From what I saw in the IGN review, it's not much. The battle with the villain he's created in his mind is just kind of walking while a scary voice taunts you.
Oh, well, that's stupid.
Big shock.
But, yeah, the water heater one was like, okay, this is a kid being afraid of something. So you see it's a dark room. It looks at you when you're moving. When you're not moving, it, like, continues scanning the room.
Yeah.
And it's like, that has potential there. You can do something with that, but it's only done, like, really one sequence. So it's... And when he's, like, fighting with the action figures, I was expecting that to, like, jump to what he's seeing in his mind.
It didn't.
But, like a bear fighting the insect, but it was just him clocking the action figures together.
Boink.
I was like, well, that's...
dumb.
It's dumb. It's accurate to what a kid would do, but it's like, I want to see what he's seeing, kind of thing. Give us that window.
Yeah.
But it's not giving us that. And there's world building in it also. Like, around the house, you can see forced things into tying into the other games.
With the comment on world building, I'm going to try not to make the comparisons to Detroit, which, again, that I thought had phenomenal, like fantastic world building. This takes the Marvel Cinematic Universe approach to world building of not, here's stuff that's in the same... instead of being, here's the world around you, it's, hey, we're connected, see, we're connected. For example, if you go on the computer, one, you see that the poor hot dog man is trapped in this shitty game.
Free hot dog man 2K8.
He's, apparently the hot dog man is...
I'm sad he's a meme now.
Actually a superhero.
Is he?
Or like a comic book superhero, instead of just an ironic T-shirt that Chloe wore
for the deluxe
in the deluxe edition of Before the Storm. So that's sad. But then you go to the second screen and you find out that the dad lost his job at the railroad company, and it says that 2 young teenagers were spotted jumping on one of the trains. Who do you think that is?
A couple of hobos? Oh no, it was Chloe and Rachel from Before the Storm.
So this brings up not a point, but just a disappointed observation I have, which is this, and again, in the press leading up to it that I did read, which I read a little bit knowing that we were going to do this podcast, the Michael Conch, I believe his name is, the game director.
No clue. Okay.
Michael something with a K. Very French man. Was saying that this will give you teasers as to this is its own story, separate from the first 2 Life is Strange products that we had, that will give you teasers into LIS 2. But no.
He takes every opportunity to say... Like, the mother is dead.
The mother is dead.
That's why the dad's all messed up.
Yeah.
I'm assuming. It's very tropey. And, like, everything is either about the mother or it's about something connecting to the other games.
Yes, and sometimes both. Like, you find out that the mother went to Blackwell. No real, like, rhyme or reason for it. Just, hey, remember how Blackwell's in the first 2 games? We're here. And again, which is like, what did that add?
It's just saying, yeah, we're in the same... You can have something in the same universe. You can allude to other games if you like, but it's literally everything I found was something pertaining to the mother, which is fine. I don't mind the mother bits that much because they don't say anything. You have to find that yourself, which is cool. I like that. it's not really interesting because it's all letters. But
Yeah.
it's
And it's that same thing that Life is Strange will do, where it's like a handwritten letter that you can't fucking read unless you press X to have the printed out text, which just... I get it's a staple of Life is Strange,
It's
but
a
also...
lot of games, I guess, because a lot of games do that sometimes.
Detroit didn't.
Detroit didn't, but Detroit, you could read it because you're a robot vision.
Yes.
Okay?
And like, to me, world building is supposed to provide something not entirely relevant to the game, if that makes it. Like, think about the stuff you found out in Detroit about like the conflict between the U.S. and Russia.
The android joining the military.
Yes, the bit about letting androids play basketball with the pros.
It makes you feel like you're living in a world not just confined to the game.
Yeah.
In the Life is Strange, it's just like, okay, we're in the Arcadia Bay area and that's it.
Yeah, it's like, hey, yeah, we're in Arcadia Bay.
What else is happening in this world?
And really, how much connection did we have to Arcadia Bay in the first game?
Not really much. And
Yeah.
And you get to sacrifice it if you want. And
I, at one point, as a joke, said to him before the game had actually started, I had said to him, what if this ends with the apocalypse from the first game?
that means it's canon and I'm going to cry.
But Kate's... Wait, no, if it's the apocalypse, Kate dies. Or
Kate dies anyways if the apocalypse comes.
true, unless you kept... Yeah.
Even if you kept her alive, she dies if the apocalypse comes.
Yes. But anyway... Yeah, bad world building, I think. But again, it's a demo.
Yeah.
But in some respects, I can't even excuse it with it being a demo, because
It's not...
to draw, unfortunately, and or fortunately, another comparison to Detroit, and you can if I'm not making sense, just stop me. Detroit had a demo,
It was the first mission.
which is the first mission in Detroit Become Human. If you remember, if you saw our PAX East video, subtle plug, I played that demo. And I'd also seen that demo when it was shown at E3 2015, was it?
I think.
One of the E3s. And that demo shows you the gameplay mechanics, creates tension, and is like, okay, this is one bit of the game you're going to be playing. I was just bored playing The Awesome Adventures of Captain Spear.
There's no real stakes, and the ending of the plot, which, since we're just going around anyways, I might as well just... Unless you want to bring it home.
Yeah, go ahead, because, like, there's... Wow, we're a half hour, we've already gotten through the whole thing. We're cruising. But, yeah, so just go ahead and tell them what the ending was.
So you can wait for... You can do the other stuff, and subtly, things will come back at you. I put that in quotes. So, like, you can blow up the snowman with a firecracker and whatever, and then you go back in your house, find out your dad's sleeping. You wake him up. Of course, he gets mad that you wake him up, but he even told you to wake him up because he drank an entire bottle of whiskey, which is impressive in a span of a half hour.
Yeah.
So you wake him up, he gets angry, he falls over everything, and then there's a knock at the door. It's your neighbor.
Is it the neighbor, or is it...
It's a neighbor. It's not a social worker.
Oh, I thought it was a social worker.
Yeah, I don't know if she works for social services, but she's a neighbor. She was on a walk.
But then why does she have the authority to call somebody to get him...
You can still call Child Protective Services on somebody.
Fair enough. Okay, so anyway, the neighbors comes by then.
And then she was like, well, how you doing on this fine day? She, like, noticed that you were shoveling the sidewalk, and she apparently heard the firecracker go off, want to make sure everything was okay. I'm assuming she said something else if you didn't do the firecracker bit.
Yeah.
So you talk with her a little bit, you make excuses for your dad, and then your dad's like, what did she want? And, like, gets mad at you again for no reason.
Because she's called Child Services.
So, and then, yeah.
And then he gets upset, and he runs up to his treehouse.
Oh, yeah, go kill his dad.
And then madness ensues.
Oh, yeah, he says to his kid, he's like, well, yeah, if you never happened, your mother never would have died, or something like that.
A whole bunch of mean shit.
Oh, I didn't mean that. And his kid's like, yes, you did, and ran outside, went up to his treehouse. The thing breaks in a very funny slow motion scene. And then he almost hits the ground and
Levitate.
Boom! His powers are real.
His telekinesis that he was imagining as his hero named Captain Spirit is real.
And I was dying. I was laughing.
We were both laughing our hindquarters
because
off.
We mentioned the MCU, and apparently everyone in Oregon has
superpowers.
which is something I hated about the first game, because it didn't explain why she had a superpower, Max, anyways. And then this kid just has superpowers, too. And it's like the mutant gene from X-Men. You need trauma to have the superpower gene activated.
Yep.
Why?
And it just ends with
that. That's
with
it.
that, and then it's just a title card of Chris will return. MCU style title card of Chris will return in Life is Strange 2.
And then it asks you to pre-order Life is Strange 2.
Which, by the way, I was saying before it came out, because when I looked at all the press leading up to this game, they were saying, at the same time that The Awesome Adventure of Captain Spirit drops, we are also going to start taking pre-orders for Life is Strange 2. And I said to producer Amanda and to Mike, I said, wow, that's cocky. You don't have anything, and you're going to start taking pre-orders.
No bonuses, no anything. Just buy our game.
Well, this was their attempt at saying, this is their attempt at drumming up hype.
You like it?
Which, of course, we didn't. So, I guess, for final thoughts... God, I gotta think of if we have any questions. Like, should we just kind of say overall, or should I try and guide questions like I did with Before the Storm? Because I don't have any questions to guide.
I have a few. You and I both have a few thoughts on it.
Yeah, so
like
I'll let
fundamental things and whatnot.
I'll let Mike go first and kind of build off of his with what I have to say, because he and I basically have the exact same opinion on this.
So, with choice games. With a good choice game, I'll say, like Detroit, I'm going to draw the comparison now. Detroit took how many years to make? Years. It was in development from 2013.
From 2013, yeah.
So
they were originally going to put it on the first PlayStation, but they took years to get that done.
And concept art way before that, I assume. The planning for that was immense, and that's because everybody has a different experience playing Detroit.
Yes.
Everybody. Anyone you ask who plays we did the same style of choices, but we had different endings. We had different endings, different choices. You could end up in a different place. But games like Life is Strange and Telltale games even, you have these choices. It's like you have a branch. It's like a single line, then it branches out, and then it comes back to a singular point.
Yes.
You end up at the same place no matter what. And it's fine in some places, but other places it's not. Like, for instance, you have these, if you put the firecracker in the snowman, it blows up, she hears the firecracker, she alludes to it. That's not really a consequence, that's just alluding to it, which isn't great. But I made the example, like, if she heard the firecracker, she called the police, police showed up at the door, saw the mark on the kids' bodies, and took the father away. Or, if you didn't do any of that, and you just made the kid happy, or made the dad happy, got mac and cheese, stopped him from drinking somehow, and then you just went to go get the Christmas tree, and the game would end there. If it had different endings, if it had different actual choice possibilities instead of these arbitrary nothingness, then it would have been cool. I just would have said it's not my style of game because it's a slice of life game, which isn't really my thing. They just do things not wrong, but wrong. It's like you're giving this player the illusion of choice, which hasn't changed at all. The graphics hasn't changed, the voice acting quality hasn't changed. It's just the same Life is Strange we've come to expect, and that's kind of sad.
Yeah. Is that all you have?
That's really all I got.
I mean, I guess we'll start with why, again, I have said that I think that I've now been turned off on Life is Strange as a whole now. I'm not even angry at this point. I'm just kind of like, I'm done because this really wasn't as good as I thought it was. Mm-hmm. Because again, and I think, unfortunately, Detroit broke my love of Life is Strange. Because, and I said this in the Detroit review, but Detroit, to me, succeeded on all three fronts for that style of video game. One, visuals. It is visuals and I guess audio too. It is visually and audibly stunning. The acting is fantastic. You would agree?
Marcus is a little one note, but
he was also on Grey's Anatomy before that,
yeah.
And so they're not.
There are certainly problems with Detroit, but my suspension of disbelief and just the things they do right.
Yeah,
you can see they put their heart and soul into that game.
Like you can, because visually, and even Marcus aside, it is visually stunning.
Yeah, no matter what. Even though Marcus voice acting, it can be rough sometimes. Yeah. It's all right. Yeah, I can believe it. It's
and
fine.
the mocapping, which I know is a thing in video games, but it is so damn good.
I'm so glad they added facial mocapping to the whole video game industry. Until Dawn was one of the first to pioneer that,
and I love Until Dawn too. But again, that's another one where things you did matter.
Permanent character death because of the mistake you made.
Yes.
Which after your thoughts, I'll talk about the Kate scene.
Sure. And also with Detroit, something that he mentioned while we were playing that was he just kind of turned to me, again, hypothetically turned to me and said, "Oh, but you know what this is missing, Ed? A soundtrack."
Oh, right. It didn't have music.
It had one little bit of indie music at the beginning for the quiet. And again, I really wish it did the trope of press skirt circle to get up.
Press skirt to get up.
Press circle, I meant to say. But, and Detroit, I actually just recently downloaded the Detroit soundtrack on my phone because it's so damn good.
They had 3 different composers
for each character. Yeah, there was a different composer for each character, and each one had different styles of music.
Different visuals, different styles. It nailed it.
Yeah, it nailed visuals, which is very important in a choice-based game in my mind, because in the end, they're cinematic experiences. Mm-hmm. As much as they are gaming experiences, they are a cinematic experience. Life is Strange has no visual style, has no visual beauty. No. It is ugly looking. Number 2.
Silent. That's what bugs me about it. It's silent.
Number 2, a choice-based game in my mind has to have good storytelling. Mm-hmm. Again, Detroit has, I think, some of the best video game storytelling I have personally seen. And it goes back to what we were saying about world building. That game knew how to introduce you to the world that you're in a clever way, mm-hmm. so you felt like you were there, and the writing is, and again, going back to the fact that they're both French developers, although I don't know if David Cage himself is actually French.
I don't think so, but I don't know.
But David Cage, if you don't know, is the writer of Detroit, the writer and director of Detroit, also Heavy Rain into Beyond Two Souls. And I'm beginning to think he is the king of the choice-based game. But Cage manages to write interesting characters that you can immediately connect with.
And they're both tropes. Both games use tropes, but Detroit does tropes so well.
Yeah, it knows how to do tropes in a way that you're still interested. And, I always look at, again, my personal favorite character in Detroit is Kara. I thought Kara's narrative was the best of the 3. You might like Connor, but because Connor's a meme, I think.
Connor is my boy. Connor and Hank, buddy cops for life.
Buddy cop tropes, but for me, the Kara narrative is so successful because it very quietly develops these connections, the connection between her and Alice. It's not, you're like a mother to, it doesn't do the Life is Strange exposition, rush it out, ASAP. It shows, but doesn't tell you.
Exactly. And with Hank and Connor, it's okay, Connor's built for a mission.
Yes.
And he's supposed to stop the deviants, but Hank is what if they do feel? You see things with Hank all the time where he starts caring about Connor. Even with Marcus, you see him lead his people from the dark depths of the Jericho ship to leading a revolution.
Yeah. They're good stories. Life is Strange doesn't know how to tell a good story. I really like that point you made of its storytelling light, or however you would say it. something like
diet
storytelling. Because Life is Strange is afraid to, and you're going to make this point with the Kate comment, so maybe I should let you take
You can lead it in if you want.
He had said this point about that, which I thought was really good, that Life is Strange is afraid to go that extra step to make the player feel uncomfortable, which is something you need to do in a mature storytelling experience.
You have to do it in an adult way,
smart way.
But like if you do it right, it leaves an impact.
Yeah, like again, in the direct comparison of the introductory Kara scene and this experience, the Kara scene was not afraid to show brutal domestic abuse.
She hit Alice, and then if Alice likes you enough, she gives you a key to a box which you open up. It's like it shows Todd beating Kara to death.
Yeah,
and it's like, oh
yeah, and it was to the point where I did read in the months leading up to Detroit, people were outraged because it showed domestic abuse so effectively. And I don't mean that outrage is a good thing, and that's a whole other podcast topic.
Any publicity is good publicity.
Any publicity is good publicity, but like that shows you that the people at Quantic Dream are not afraid to make the player feel uncomfortable to tell their story. Life is Strange, even in the first game, with how much I praised the Kate scene back then, the more I think about it, it still really doesn't know how to do that effectively.
Like I call it the touch and go. They reached there with the Kate scene as close as they ever got. They showed how she was apparently fine. Then you look deeper into it and she's not really fine. And then they shove it in your face. It's like, she's not okay. And it's like you have to talk her down, which is great because you can't undo it. Your time travel stops working. And it's like, okay, I'm about to lose this character that I like. And they're about to touch on it. They're right there. You can feel the tension. You can feel everything. But that episode was bogged down by bottles and monotonous crap. And it just ended with that. And then after that, the third episode went right back into the stupid crap. Didn't touch on it ever again.
Yeah, you never once...
And then you can sacrifice... If you save Kate, you can sacrifice her by killing Arcadia Bay for Chloe. And it's like, well, what is that for then? And it's cheap. They touched on it so close. And with this game in Captain Spirit, you can see that there's domestic abuse going on. You can see that the dad is struggling with the death of his wife, that he's struggling with the loss of his job, and you can almost see how the kid copes with it, which is what I really wanted to see. I really wanted to see how this kid's imagination copes with all this. And we don't. We don't really see it. And it's a demo, so I'm not gonna strike it too hard for that. But they're so close sometimes. They get there, but they just don't, because they're afraid of offending or they're afraid of doing something with it.
Yeah. But even then, just to kind of make the point on the demo, did you ever play you played the Detroit demo because you played the first game. First mission, but even with the demo, having experienced that on the show floor at PAX, it still manages to be a demo but create tension. Like arguably it's not here's everything you're going to see in the game. It's just kind of like, here's one little snippet with, by the way, 6 different endings for that one demo. So in some respects, I think that this failed as a demo because I go back and forth, because on one hand it succeeded because we basically know that Life is Strange 2 is not going to be good.
It's just going to be this.
It's going to be more of the same, which makes me really not want to do it. But, so in some respects, it's a perfect demo because it shows you there's no hope.
It's exactly what it's going to be, which is fine.
This is going to be... This is what we're doing, which in some respects, good. You showed me that you've learned nothing and you're not competent.
At least they're honest.
But at the same time, like, no, do better, because...
Do not be sorry. Be better. In the words of Papa Kratos.
Yeah, do not be sorry. Be better. Like, learn from your mistakes and try and tell a more effective story. because in the end, you would agree with me. Games are an art form.
Yeah.
And Life is Strange, I am finding more and more, is an insult to that art form.
It's trying to be modern art, but it's playing off of the emotion of people in classic consumerism at work. But it's not. It's just there's so many things that do it better, and there's potential. I can see it. I want them to capitalize on that, and then I can at least say it's not a game for me, but I can see they're putting effort into it. And games are hard. I commend the people who worked hard on it, but what are you doing? What are you doing to me? It's so, like, not good. You can see the lack of care with everything.
I think that about wraps it up.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk briefly just about... I'll give you guys just a bit of an update if you're a fan of Mike and I hating ourselves and playing the Life is Strange games. Life is Strange 2's release date is September 26th of this coming year, and we are very proud of Mr. Mike Adams. He is starting the collage. He is starting college this coming fall, and he is going to be living on campus, a campus that's about 45 minutes away?
Yeah, depending on traffic.
About 45 minutes away. I still go to college, but I'm a commuter. I have to look to see how close my campus and yours are, because we've talked... Essentially what we're saying is, at least with episode 1, we are not 100% sure if there will be a podcast, because logistically, producer Amanda, Mike, and myself have all been kind of scratching our heads as to how we can do it.
Worst comes to worst, we'll do a season podcast kind of thing, an all-in-one.
What we thought, we thought we have a few other alternative ideas, which just follow our socials, the Ed Reviews Instagram, or I don't really use the Twitter as much anymore, so probably follow the Instagram to kind of and I will do my best to give you guys updates as we get closer to it coming out to see what ideas we have.
We'll definitely be doing something for it.
We're going to do something for it. What that is, we're not 100% sure just yet.
To my chagrin, we're going to be doing it.
We'll do something. We'll keep you guys posted. He had a good idea, too, of we might just... Because if it's like the first Life is Strange, episodes should come out 3 months apart from each other. So one thing we thought is, the way we worked it out with... When the first episode comes out, the second episode hypothetically comes out while he and I are both on our winter breaks. So we might do a 2-for-1 with that one. We'll get back to you. But we will try and do something for it. Because even though it's shit, I think there's a conversation to be had about it.
Because who knows? Maybe they'll surprise us.
Maybe they'll do something good.
They won't, but...
No, we don't have a lot of hopes, but
maybe.
Maybe they will. And I think that's where we're going to leave it.
I'm not getting the deluxe edition.
We're not doing deluxe editions. Well, Mike, thank you as always for doing this with us. We are happy you're a full member of the Ed Review staff. Or partially, you're the junior consultant, but... I'm
glad to sacrifice my sanity for the cause.
You're a good man, Mike. We thank you, and we'll see you next time, guys.
Bye, guys.
Thank you. Bye-bye.